There's some really complicated terminology to do with UK Parliament. You need to know what these are. They like to put them in as 1 and 2 mark questions, and it also gives you an all-round better understanding of how our Parliament works and the kind of way that rules are made and all those kind of things. Okay, there are some video links for you. I'll put those in the comments, and some interactive quizzes for you to do as well. There is a video of the state opening of Parliament. So every year, after it's had its little holidays, Parliament is officially opened by the Queen, and it's a very kind of royal affair. Everybody's dressed up, it's very posh, and it's all about custom and tradition and all those kind of things. Okay, so our Parliament is called bicameral, and what that literally means is 2 chambers. Bi means 2, cameral I believe is Latin for chamber, and our Parliament has got 2 chambers or 2 houses. It's got the House of Commons and the House of Lords, but both of those work together to make and change our laws. So bicameral is literally just the posh way of saying it. So bicameral means 2 houses. Okay, the other thing to do with kind of the way power is distributed in this country, it's something called the separation of powers. So not all of the power is given to the Prime Minister or to the government. So the government can't change laws by themselves. The government can't enact laws by themselves. They can't hand out judgments to people. There's a whole big system in place. It's a big safety net to ensure fairness and equality. So the first thing we've got is something called the executive, and the executive is basically the top people in government. So your Prime Minister, your cabinet ministers, and all those kind of high up departments, governmental departments. Now the executive in a company is kind of like the boss, and that's kind of what the executive are. They're kind of the boss of the country, and they're the ones who draft the laws. So they put the draft bills through to get yay or nay in Parliament. They're the ones who come up with those ideas. The next one that we've got is the legislator. Now the legislator is the whole of Parliament, so it is the House of Commons, the House of Lords and the Queen, and they're the ones who approve the laws. So in this country, usually an idea for a law will be started in the House of Commons, it gets passed backwards and forwards to the House of Lords till they agree, and then it goes to the Queen to be signed off. So the legislator is the whole of Parliament. The last bit is the judiciary, and these are the judges and the courts, and these are the ones who apply the law. Our judges have to be politically neutral. They are not allowed to be part of a political party, and that's a really, really fundamental part of our democracy and our rule of law. If judges are part of a political party, then they can be biased towards that party's policies. For example, if you look at the USA and their Supreme Court, it's all based on party politics, and it causes massive outrage in the US. So they are our 3 branches of power within the UK. So the executive, the legislator and the judiciary. The monarchy, or the monarch, the Queen, is the last one. So legislator, if it's got the word legislation or anything like that, it means it's to do with the law. Judiciary starts with Jew or Jud, and that's for judges. And then the monarchy is obviously the Queen. So the executive in a company, like I said earlier, is the boss. The executive in Parliament is kind of the boss, which is the Prime Minister and the government. Okay, so if we have a quick look at our House of Lords, remember House of Lords are not elected. They are what's called peers or lords. They used to be hereditary, so they got their title from their parents, they got them from their parents and so on. Most of them now are something called life peers, which means they're given the title by the Prime Minister, usually for being experts in their fields. So, for example, Lord Alan Sugar, he was made a Lord by then Prime Minister Tony Blair for his expertise in business. So there are some Reform Acts that you guys need to be aware of. The first one is the 2005 Constitutional Reform Act, and that took judicial powers away from the House of Lords. In the House of Lords, there used to be top judges in there. They've now completely separated that, so we have got this separation of powers. There are no longer judges in the House of Lords, acting judges. In 2009, there was the UK Supreme Court made, and this is the final court, the top court in the UK. It is completely separate from the executive and the legislature. None of the judges in there are in the House of Lords or are acting MPs. So the UK Supreme Court was established in 2009, and it is the top court in the country. Okay. So you guys need to be aware of all of those. And you've got this in your booklets if you fill a little bit of information about what each section is. Okay, so a little bit more to add in then. The executive, the Prime Minister's the head of the executive. They're the ones who hire and fire the cabinet ministers and direct, present and coordinate the work of the government. He or she also has the power to decide when to hold the next election. Remember, there's a maximum 5-year term, which also gives power over political opponents. So, for example, a Prime Minister might call an early election just to show the rest of them who's boss. They lead international and home affairs. They're surrounded and supported by the Cabinet, and the Cabinet are 20 to 30 ministers, MPs, who are responsible for high up positions. So, for example, the Minister for Education, the Minister for Health, and so on. They're also responsible for business and policy in the country. The next one, the legislator. Parliament makes laws, the whole of Parliament. It goes through House of Commons, House of Lords and the Queen. If the House of Commons do want to pass a law and the House of Lords don't agree, even if it's been changed a million times, the House of Commons can pass a law. They have got more power. And the reason they've got more power is because we're a democracy and they were elected. Your last one's the judiciary, who are the judges, the magistrates, and they're the people who enforce the laws. And remember to ensure that separation of powers, they are separate from the executive and the legislature. Okay, you've got some exam questions to do. Make sure you have a go and answer them in your booklet.